So here's a young lady who has a degree, is working, and I don't know what these young men do.
Right.
But obviously, just based on Lisa's comments, they're hardworking, nice-looking guys, no criminal records, all of this stuff. Can I look beyond the degree? Am I willing to look beyond the degree that I have and look at a young man for his content, and say, hey, end of the day, I want somebody who will love me, who's willing to go to bat for me. This man will get up and go to work. I don't have to tell him. He'll, we can build a partnership. Not based on degree, but on our character.
I think so. I think this is where we've kind of gotten off pace.
Yeah.
Because when you go back to the 50s, 60s, 70s, you didn't have television shows and social media that displayed these lifestyles that now most people, by the way, women in particular, really want to live.
Yeah.
You really want to live that lifestyle.
Yep.
And so if I couple up with you, I'll never have that lifestyle. Well, guess what? You probably, most of us won't have that lifestyle, period. If you stay single, you're not going to have that lifestyle. I was sharing with my wife, and she always is like, here you go. But I was sharing, there's a probability calculator, a male probability calculator.
Okay.
And somebody sent it to me, and so I was running my numbers. So my age, my height, my weight, I'm not overweight, my income.
Right.
And what it said is that if a woman was waiting on someone like me, she would end up in her home with cats alone.
Wow.
Because the probability that a woman would meet someone like me is 0.0008.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but what happens is, though, like let's say, there's a listener say, I don't want Linal, but I want someone like him.
Right.
If she's out there and that's what she set as her model for marriage, then it's very likely she'll be single and pass, like Lisa has these great sons, and pass up young men like that who with partnership would be so much better.
Man.
And I believe that's part of the solution is us actually being realistic about who we partner with. As promised, we're talking part 2 of the silent struggles of today's men and boys, subtitled The Solution. So we want to talk about the solution. And supporting me to do this is my good friend, Mr. Arnold Sandridge, who was with us last week. Welcome back to the show.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, good to have you. Good to have you. So I know on your end you got quite a bit of positive feedback on what we shared last week. I know on my end the same thing here.
Yep.
What do you think? I mean, I know you and I both went into this very thoughtfully because we know it's a fairly it can be a very sensitive topic. What would you say you believe is the reason why many of the listeners, at least from your side, in terms of the conversations you've had with peers and colleagues, had such a positive take on what we shared?
I say the main thing I kept hearing, one refrain over and over, was, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Yeah. Yeah, because you and I talked about it. It's something that people are carefully, getting into.
Yeah.
And it's okay to just go ahead and talk about it. So a lot of people said, hey, I just didn't know that, which is really good.
So I didn't know men were struggling quite this way.
That's
I didn't know boys were struggling quite this way.
I didn't know suicide was like that. I didn't know. On and on.
Yeah. No, it was, I will tell you, it was encouraging. My assistant and I throughout the week were like, I'm like, any emails come in? Because, sometimes I'm told very quickly as to whether or not someone appreciates what I'm talking about or not. And in this case, he was like, no, nothing really, nothing negative at all. Yeah.
May I ask, is it that people will normally email you if it's on, I won't say negative, if it's a little tougher feedback, is that when they normally...
Oh, brother, they have no problem giving me feedback.
Okay, there you go.
No problem.
Okay.
No problem. Our listeners have no problem giving me feedback, which I look at, and sometimes I'm thoughtful about it and say, okay, that's something I can think about. And other times I'm like, hey, I'll probably talk about it next week. So
there you go.
Stay mad.
There we go.
Yeah. So I want to get right in. And first I want to do a recap.
Yes.
And just share a good portion of what we talked about last week. And we covered a lot, brother.
A lot.
I don't know if you realize how much we covered. So I'm going to run through this really quickly, but we opened talking about masculine and feminine energy.
Yep.
And how, regardless of your gender, you can carry masculine and feminine energy, and how, as men, we want to think about what energy we're bringing ultimately. Right. But then also, in another way, we talked about how a lot of the settings for our boys are, kind of created with feminine energy.
That's right.
And because they're created with feminine energy, it doesn't always, connect with the real core of what boys want to do. And education is, I think, a great example of that.
That's
right. Where, we were talking yesterday. Why don't you share with the audience what you were sharing with me in terms of how boys learn in contrast to how girls learn?
Yeah, we were just talking briefly about, there was a high school that wanted to try something. They noticed, hey, in general, boys were doing, academically, that is, performing at a little less rate versus the girls. So one high school took a freshman class, and they said, we want to try something. And they split them out, and they said, we're going to let a group of girls only go through the curriculum, a group of boys only, and then the general population. And at the end of the day, when the school years are over, the girls did academically the best. This is by GPA, college prep, et cetera. And the group of all boys did almost as good as the all girls did, very well. But both did much better than the general pop, and especially the boys in the general population. They performed, not optimally. And what I like about when you do an experiment, you want to be as random as possible, right? So they didn't use much screening to say what boys would go in there. Okay. So that was a very good, a pretty good experiment.
So to make sure I fully understand this and the audience fully understands this,
right?
When young people are educated in a co-ed situation, typically boys suffer as a result.
They suffer as a result.
Wow.
Yep.
I mean, that's something to really, wrap our minds around. And then, not surprisingly, the girls outperform the boys academically. And I think you and I both understand that. But can you explain to the audience why you believe that is?
Yeah, it's not that the girls are smarter and all of this. It is for sure multifaceted, right? One, boys do mature less.
a little bit slower.
A little later. Yeah,
it took me a long while.
Hey, it's just the way it is. And the environment that you're in needs to understand and support that. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And it's not so it's translated often as bad behavior. And a lot of the schools model behavior after how young ladies act. So that's the other facet. And it's like, no, and we were talking, boys like experiential learning. We were talking yesterday for boys running and he falls and scrapes his knee. That's a perfect time to talk about Newton's law, friction, and all of that, and how to calculate the heat coming off the knee. This is a perfect time to do it because that's how boys learn. So yeah. Not sitting down, being quiet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Getting their hands dirty.
That's right.
In other words.
Yep.
So we talked about that. The other thing we talked about was the silence regarding men and boys on these type of issues. And like you said, a lot of people, I mean, a lot of people on my side was like, I had no idea.
Yes.
I just had no idea
Yep.
that men and boys were struggling the way that you all shared. And so in some ways, I believe that many members of my network are activated, which definitely I'm excited about.
Yeah.
I had some conversations with other men throughout the week who were like, hey, look, man, that show did something for me.
Yes.
And they're activated by that. We just talked about the gender gap in education in many ways, but there is a gender gap in education, especially at the college level. And then the pandemic male dropout rates and how men dropped out, what was it, 9 times?
7 times.
7 times more
Yep.
likely to drop out during the pandemic than women.
Yep.
Suicide among young men is up 4x over that of women and girls.
And I wanted to bring that particular thing out because we hazarded at the stat, and I just wanted to clarify. And from 1999,
from 1999, that's
to now, if the rate of suicide in men was as low as it is in women, approximately 545,000 more men would still be on the earth.
And because women procreate, but men, have the seed for procreation,
That's right.
That means that, when you look at many of these nations, looking at the United States of America, where I believe last week you said there were only 2 states.
2 states replacing the population.
That's
right.
So the other
we're on a
48
negative.
states,
Yep.
the population is dropping.
That's correct.
I find that interesting when there's this narrative around overpopulation. The show's not about that.
but it absolutely is related.
Yeah. It is fascinating, right? Where there's this narrative that, there's too many of us.
But what you're saying is we as a population need to stop playing checkers.
Yes.
Learn how to play chess. If I make a move today, 5 moves from now, what does that do to us? And we're seeing it.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. The other thing we talked about is the shift in economic roles for men and women. And really we explored it a little bit in the conversation around men haven't quite figured this out.
Right.
Like, how do I cope with the idea that if I am in a relationship, I may not be the breadwinner anymore? And I think for a lot of men, and as we talk about solutions, I want to get back into this.
Sure.
But I think for a lot of men, it's like, maybe I should just stay single. Like, I know how to take care of myself, but I don't want to get married, and then she becomes the boss of me. And because I think in many ways we've looked at economic, prowess or leading economically, as a standard of manhood.
That's right.
And here we are today, and it's just not the reality.
Right. And the men, and on the male side, we need to understand that it's okay to embrace if your partner, wife, or whomever is at doing just straight dollar wise, doing better than you, and that's okay. That's why it's called partnership. That's how it should be looked at. But what it's translating to is men going, then what's my self-worth?
Yeah.
And then we talked about multiple things in the environment, commercials, movies, etc. That's fostering the downward thought of men, the downward trend. Men can't think, they can't do 2 things at once, etc. So
and then we talked about the emotional difference between men and women, and how in today's society it seems like they're in many ways kind of holding it as if men function emotionally like women, and we just don't. We just don't.
They said there's one group that looked at this and they summed it up that basically society is telling men you are not feminine enough.
Yeah.
And that's counter to how men process.
Well, and it's counter to heterosexual relationships.
Yes.
Well, actually, it's counter to almost any relationship because almost every relationship has a masculine and feminine role. whether it's a heterosexual relationship or a homosexual relationship or whatever else we want to talk about. Typically, there's a masculine and feminine role, because part of how we function is on those universal laws, and one of those laws being the law of polarity.
Sure.
And so for men to, for society to be telling men that, hey, you need to be a bit more feminine, I think we discussed a little bit about this starting to show off last week, where that has become an issue in our relationships as well.
Sure.
Because I can tell you, my wife is not really looking to me to embrace my feminine side in our relationship. No.
So the whole notion of, we talked about toxic masculinity, right?
We did.
That's the whole thing. And you hardly hear about toxic femininity. And then we talked about the idea of, we all know what misogyny is, but we don't know what that word is for men, when men are treated.
Right.
And we challenge your audience to look that up.
And I got I think before the end of the show, I got only 2 responses.
Okay.
Both were correct.
Okay,
but I think it proved the point that most people don't know that term.
I have no idea what it is.
Do you mind sharing with everyone?
I wonder if your audience, they're going to call in, right?
Oh, yeah, they'll be calling in.
Yeah, let me leave it to
some phone calls.
Well, yeah, let's see what they come up with. Yeah,
let's see what they come up with. Okay, I'm good with that. So now here we are. We talked about why fathers matter as well, and so we covered a lot of ground. When you think about it, last week we covered a lot of ground, and you and I both walked out saying we didn't get to everything.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
There's a few things that we missed last week before we get into solutions.
Right.
And so we'll get into solutions in the second hour.
Yep.
But for the remaining 30 minutes or so, I'd like to talk about dating and romance. And
oh boy,
men in this dating and romance function in 2024. And so I'm curious about, what's your take on how dating and romance has changed for men in recent years?
Yeah, and just a word of caution here. I said last week, and I want to make sure I say again, I am no one's social scientist, right? I'm a hardcore scientist.
Insert disclaimer here.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
But being interested in this, the information is there.
It is.
It is really there.
You can go to Google and find most of the things that we're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, if we step back and look in general, younger audiences, younger people don't date like I did. I went up to a woman and said hello, and then we, I'm not saying it doesn't happen at all. On all of these statements, everything we're saying has exceptions.
True.
Very everything true. We're saying.
Very, very true.
So, but in general, it's, a lot of it is e-dating. You're going out to some app or whatever you go.
According to the stats, the majority. The majority of it is online dating now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so something is happening. Okay, back when I was young, you'd be on the playground and you'd see a young lady or wherever you're sitting somewhere in the park or wherever you are. You see somebody you're interested in, and I'm not talking. I want to separate what people are calling toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
From
please.
This is
in dating. Yeah,
in dating, right?
Yep.
So if a guy mistreats a woman or cat calls or makes her feel uncomfortable or keep pursuing after she says no and all of these things, that's not masculinity. So masculinity is not toxic. So I don't use the term toxic masculinity. Masculinity is not toxic. That's a guy being disrespectful.
Yeah.
Is what that is. Yeah. And he needs to check himself, be trained, or whatever he needs to do to get that right.
And we defined masculinity last week, but for the sake of the audience, anyone who might be new that's listening, do you mind sharing your definition of what masculinity is?
Sure. So first of all, I challenge the audience to go to do this with all definitions. Go back and look and go say, okay, give me the definition of masculinity, 1980 definition of masculinity.
Old dictionaries.
The old dictionary.
Yeah, because definitions are changing.
They're changing definitions, audience, to fit new ideas. And whether you take it or not, this is what's happening. And, as people create new ideas, they need a way to express it.
Yep. As a matter of fact, I'll say this to the audience.
Sure.
One of the things that you should do, if you haven't already, is get a physical dictionary. Like go to a garage sale. And most of the time, these kind of things are on sale for $1. Grab one of those old dictionaries from back in the day and keep it in your house.
Yep.
Because definitions are literally changing on us. They're changing on us. And so thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah.
So back to this dating thing. So you walked up to your wife. Mm-hmm. I walked up to my wife.
Right.
I emailed my wife.
Yep.
I called my wife.
Sure.
I still didn't have any luck. I invited my wife out for coffee.
Yeah.
She said no. I still didn't have any luck.
So?
And then finally I said, well, I'm going to do business with this woman. And then that's when I finally seen, and I did all of it respectfully.
But you weren't being creepy.
No, I wasn't being creepy.
That's right.
No, I wasn't being creepy. I was being, straight up like, hey, like let's meet for coffee.
Right.
And she was like, we don't need to meet for coffee for you to sign this contract. It's already in DocuSign. I was like, she's good, man. She knows how to, spin move.
Oh, yeah.
Like, nah, man.
But what did that do? Did that make you say, ooh, I have to step up?
Well, I was looking for a wife.
Yeah.
And so because I was looking from that context, I thought, wow, if this is what everything a man has to do to get her out, then she'll be a good wife. She'll be a loyal wife. I don't have to worry about, every time a guy says she looks nice, that she's going to say,
That's right.
Because
she's beyond that.
Yeah, it definitely didn't work for me. And so more than likely it's not going to work for another guy.
And you're a handsome guy. I tell Linal this all the time. He's a handsome guy. So she's obviously not, wooed by that. She said, okay, that's part of it. But also the masculine side, so there's nothing wrong with a man being protective, right?
Yes.
Having the idea of I will take the lead.
I believe that's a role of a man.
That's a role.
Yeah, the role of a man.
Having the idea, and also, for people to understand, we talked about this. This is not the days of father knows best, and we come home and put on our slippers and pick up the paper and read. No. But also, men, there's nothing wrong with a man coming in and going, honey, I have it. I'll cook dinner. I got it.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
No.
Which I've done.
This is what you do. This is what we do. Don't worry about the babies. I have them. You go. These are the roles. You're talking about masculinity. That's partnership.
That's partnership.
And a man will lead. He'll see. There's nothing wrong with a man seeing his wife, his woman, struggling in an area, being that comfort. So a man, masculinity comes in many flavors. That's what it's all about. And but what I like about what you're saying is you pursued.
I did.
Right, and now if she would have given you a hard no, don't call me anymore, don't contact.
Oh yeah, at that point,
it'd have been done.
Yeah.
But today we're talking about dating, right?
Yep.
You're getting to know the intro many times is an e-intro, electronic. That is for dating
it's
apps. It's a swipe.
It's a swipe.
Right.
Which way do they swipe?
Right. I think if you want to, if you're interested, right?
Yeah.
You swipe right. Now, I don't get me wrong. I've never done it.
You swipe right.
Right. I've never done it before. This is what I hear. Right. Yeah. So.
You put that in there real fast. I've never done it.
That's right. I didn't. No, I have not. I'm happily married.
I've never seen.
That's
I
right.
don't think I've even seen physically. Tinder or any of those.
No. I just see. I've seen the apps and everything, but I've never seen it. Yeah. I'm 32 years happily married. Would do it again with the same woman. All that type of stuff. So, but today, one thing that is funny. What I was going to bring out is. Something that's in humans, in animal kingdom and all, is you look for fitness. In other words, can a person, and we talked about this, can a person help provide? Can they go and help the tribe? Can they, bring their value home and help their local family, and maybe even help the tribe have extra to help others? Things of that nature. From a masculine point of view, there's nothing wrong with that, right? And now, so you look at these things, and there's a physical attraction. Don't tell me there's nothing physical. If you tell me there's no physical attraction, I'm questioning sincerity here. So there should be some physical attraction somewhere, et cetera, right? So these are the things we saw. It's funny, listening to and researching this, many things are very much the same. I saw a young man. He's a black young man from Nigeria. He says, look, I'm on the app. He wasn't a bad-looking guy at all. He was like, I get almost no swipes. Yeah. He said, my friend, though, who's blonde, blue-eyed, has this long flowing hair, he gets swipes galore.
Nothing right, yeah.
So you see this, and what's happening is even in the electronic world, men are experiencing tremendous loneliness because of certain expectations.
And I want to talk about that when we get to the solutions.
Yep.
Because I believe that there's a role that young single men need to take.
Yep.
And we'll talk about that at the top of, when we get past the break, around what my solution, or what I would tell them, how I would coach a young man.
Yep.
To overcome that.
Yes.
And
Very good. Very good.
We'll talk about that. Now, in terms of dating and marriage, the marriage rate among African Americans has declined significantly.
Yep.
And in 2020, only 30% of African Americans are married, compared to 48% of all Americans.
Which is even low for all Americans.
For all Americans,
that's
yes.
right.
So it's low across the board,
Across
period.
the board, yep.
Now, that's in contrast to, I believe, back in the 60s, 70s, 70% of us were married.
That's right. Correct.
70% of African Americans were married. So this is a drop from about 61% in 1960.
Yep.
So almost half.
Yep.
30% today versus 61% in 1960. Why do you think that is?
Well, if you look at every subpopulation, meaning if you take a population, break it down by ethnicity or whatever, I have friends who are Indians, and they came from India. My friends at my age, they came directly from India, and they're lamenting about how their children are not like us. True. I go, well, it's generational, and guess what? They're in another country, and you know what they're going to do? They're going to assimilate to this country. So you don't see the same. You do still have everything. All of these things have exceptions. Okay, you still do have arranged marriages, and then guess what? There's an increase in marriages that are not.
Arranging my children. I'm at a point where I'm like, man, I need to start looking for Legend's wife.
Maybe that's
now,
the way to go.
And Rain's husband,
because I don't know what.
Oh man,
I don't know what's going to happen in 20 years. I have no idea.
Well, I mean, these numbers. Yeah. It's like really.
Yeah.
If I want grandchildren, it's
they
almost
don't
like,
want.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, you're hitting so many areas, man, that we can go into. But really quickly, we don't. We're not really good at balancing things as humans. We fix something over here, we think. We don't understand until 20 years later that we've broken 5 things,
So give me an example of what you mean in terms of dating and marriage.
So what's happening now, and if you look at every subpopulation, there are dynamic differences in marriages, 20 years ago versus now. Less people in general are getting married. One of the things that's happening, you talked about the education gap, the gender gap in education. So the data is showing very clearly if a young lady who are earning more degrees now than men, if a young lady wants to marry, she is going to first look in general for a man who also has a degree. And we're talking heterosexual here.
Yeah.
She's going to look for a man who also has a degree. Note, there are less and less men getting degrees.
Yeah.
So you're also creating a mismatch. due to the pressures on men are not looking to run a college. They're trying to survive day to day. And as we said last week, 7 to 9 million men have disappeared from being involved in the population, being involved in day to day. They're still alive. They're still alive. Some work. They work less jobs. They're not career-oriented. They're not trying to be. They don't want to date. They've been burned. They're tired, mentally exhausted. So they go to work. They grab their dinner. They go home. Many of them still live with their parents. They go to the basement or wherever, and they hide out. So you see a difference in availability of partnership, right, because of these. And we talked about this. We'll get into solutions about other populations of men who may be available, may not have the college degree. But that's one of the dynamics that's happening. We have these expectations of, so today they say we have expectation, they say that gender is a social construct, right? They say, well, men.
That's what is being said.
That's right. Men are said they should act this way. Women are saying they should act this way. Those are also, there's biology behind it. We talked last week for those who remember.
Like what, in terms of biology, why is that important when it comes to gender?
Yeah, because we're driven, by not only environment, but by genetics, right? So there is a maleness, there is a femaleness. So please do this. Make sure you look at those two definitions, male and female. Yeah, I know what this is.
Right. Yeah.
Go back to the old definitions so you'll understand what's happening. And then you look at today's definitions, you can see the changes. It usually starts with something social, right? So when these are things that we're telling nature, you have to change. No.
Back off.
Yeah.
Back off, nature.
But the 23rd pair of chromosomes, those are the sex chromosomes, tell you some ways that you're going to be. If it's XX, these are in general. If it's XX, that's a female. If it's XY, that's a male. The testosterone is the difference. If those cells are bathed in testosterone during the embryo development, and that comes from the Y chromosome, and it's going to drive maleness. And as that organism develops, when it's born, it's going to drive maleness. When they come up and grow, it's going to drive maleness. This is why we talked about it, more risk-taking among men. You have more, right? These daring things that are out front, and this is why even insurance companies go, until you're 25 years old, we're going to charge you double because there is a maleness, so
and
biology.
When we ended the show last week, I talked about this being, I believe, the 80th anniversary of D-Day.
Yes.
When at least 2024 being the 80th anniversary, and when young men stormed the beaches. And when you think about that, like what it takes, it takes a young man.
Yes.
I think about some of the things I did when I was 18 through 26 that were just really stupid and unreasonable.
Right.
And my mother was praying, which is why I'm still here.
Oh, yeah.
And God knew I had a purpose, and he was like, let me take
help
this stupid child and make sure he gets to the other side.
Absolutely.
Right? You see why. You see why. And then one of the things I was sharing last week is I'm afraid that if we had to call men together for a similar effort in 2024, that we would come up short.
We've told them you don't have to tap into that. Society is driving men away from that, the natural risk-taking, leadership-taking activity or thought, more toward what the society is calling feminine thought. And you're saying masculinity is toxic. And so you have all these,
So is it safe? Would you say it's safe to say that what society is telling us to do as men and boys is not working when you look at
it's
the numbers?
Not. Well, we see what's happening now. Now we're getting to see the outcome. If I may, we look at cigarettes way back in the day.
Yeah.
They say, oh, this is great. Even they had doctors. Dr. So-and-so smoked cigarettes in the old commercial.
I remember that.
You know,
yeah.
and then so people took off, and then they go, oh, no, the government goes, we need to sue the cigarette companies. And they got $3 billion from the cigarette, a few years ago and said, you all are.
Yeah, you misled us.
Yeah, you misled us.
Yeah.
The government knew. I'm afraid to tell you the same thing is happening with marijuana. They're telling you the same thing. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with marijuana. If you want to have that science talk with me one day, that I'll gladly have. The data is just coming out now. They say it's all right. It doesn't do you the same way cigarettes. Cigarettes have about 4,000 different chemicals in them that could really do your job. Turns out marijuana has about the same number. So they're telling you it's all right.
When it's grown with pesticides.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's tax money.
Yeah.
That's what they're after. They don't care about us, right? So what am I saying? They'll tell us things, and we don't. We embrace them, not understanding the outcomes, right?
Outcome. Yeah.
This is what happened to men. The consequences of what has driven the way we're treating men and boys today is translating into men going, I have no self-worth. What am I here for? What's my role? Therefore, I will take a back seat. I will be at home after work.
What would you say are the broader implications of declining marriage? So declining marriage rates, declining birth rates. What is the larger implication on society?
I really thought about this, right? And there's one big word. It's so simple, but it's so, at the same time, it has such deleterious effects. And that word is loneliness. It's leading to...
Yeah, we're lonelier than we've ever been.
Oh, my goodness.
So then take the increased depression.
It's leading to that.
You can't watch television now without seeing a new commercial for some type of medicine.
That's it.
That's addressing loneliness and depression.
Yep.
They don't say loneliness.
They don't
want to tell you that
they
you're
don't
lonely.
want to. Yep.
Because then you might say, well, maybe I should get out of here. But what they are saying is, hey, if you're feeling a certain kind of way, this will support
That's
that.
right. Not understanding people contact, and women are better at this than men.
All the commercials have you and with people.
That you have.
I mean, the music starts to go upbeat.
That's
and then, right. She's skipping through and it's like she's like hitting the flowers.
That's
and
it.
Then all her friends come and she's
exactly.
smiling. It's like, and then of course after that they're like, this may lead to, and it's a whole long list of things.
Well, I saw a little shot on Facebook a couple of weeks ago. This is us in the 70s, and everybody's playing on monkey bars and falling all over the place, and we're all together. This is us today. You got a couple of people on some device,
all lined up on a device,
and they're but we are made to absolutely be in contact. You've heard, "No man is an island."
True.
The Bible says nobody lives to themselves.
Yep.
On and on. You see, we are made. We're
social creatures.
We are. We have to have that contact. Data shows if we don't, we die sooner.
Wow.
Loneliness is a real issue.
So really what's happening when we talk about these 7 to 9 million men who disappear from society, who are likely in their mother's basement, in their parents' basement, they're lonely. The likelihood of mortality increases significantly. Guess what? That's more men besides just suicide who are not contributing to the birth rate, right? So as we see, economics play a role also. People don't. It's very difficult today economically. People go, I can't have a child. I talked to a group of young people recently. No, we're not having children. So it leads to multiple things, and men not being available is very negative to our environment, to our population. It's literally existential. Wow. Why is it better to be married?
Oh no, you have so what's shown. I don't like to. Not everything is just hard data.
Yeah.
From a feel good point of view. Men are looking for worth. They're looking for what I bring to the table,
but
being
Arnold,
valued.
I feel worthy.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm making a contribution.
You are not out to mind
at work.
Yep. When you go home, You have no offspring. That's not happening. You have nothing to bring it home to. You know, all of those things. Men like to contribute.
But what if I do have a few children?
Are they with you? And are you?
They don't live with me.
Are you taking care of them? That's the other question. That's the other question, because they may not live with you, but are you involved?
And I guess that goes back to last week. We talked about the role that men play with their children.
Yeah.
And how it increases oxytocin.
Absolutely.
In both the child.
Yep. And oxytocin it's the feel good hormone. It's just to let the audience know. That's right.
The feel good, kind of the feel good hormone that I would say
contributes to.
You know, this makes the feel good hormone. So to that point, my wife and I were having a conversation. I like being home. I like being home with my family and my children. In fact, it's difficult to pull me out into a networking event in the middle of the week.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I'd rather be. And what I just heard, just in this moment, I realized that it's because I prefer the oxytocin boost that I get from being with my family rather than what I might experience from a drink of alcohol. Or whatever else I could do out and about. It can't compare to what happens to me biologically when I'm with my family.
You see legend becoming you, the best parts of you.
Yep.
You go, oh my goodness, that's crazy.
Yeah.
He's doing it.
Yeah. And by the way, I can't be present in the house without him jumping on my back or running up on me.
And if he misses that, he misses masculinity. We have a very key role to play as men. Our boys must see that. Our boys are suffering. Our boys must see positive. And it's not always, we're going to let him visit a corporate office or something. No. Being at home like that gives that young man the opportunity to develop into a true, strong, balanced young man.
So solutions for boys. And so when you think about, we just talked about this over the break, that for the majority, and think about the African American community in particular, for the majority of young boys growing up right now, they don't have a father in the home.
Correct.
Now, we can go through all the reasons for that. I think we pretty much get it. I mean, we know why, right? We don't have to get into the why. But this is where we are. This is the current circumstance. What solution would you provide for the single mother right now who has sons or has a son in terms of how she can ensure that he grows up in a balanced, masculine way in the future? Because I'm sure the mothers who are listening right now are asking themselves, okay, now what do I do? So what would be your answer to that?
And disclosure, first of all, I grew up in a home with no dad there, you know. So, boy, one of the things my mother did.
Well, let me ask you this. So what your mother did, but I mean, here you are. So what happened for you?
So I mean, it was a lot driven. One of the things my mom did was she gave us foundational love, and this is what I mean. She's like, she would put things in us like, you're no better than anyone else, and nobody's better than you. So you're gonna achieve. You're gonna do what you need to. I need somebody to graduate with honors. I need somebody. She didn't know, so she gave us what she had.
And where did you grow up, Arnold?
I grew up in Washington Park Homes projects there on 45th and Evans.
All right. I think that's important for people because sometimes what happens is, and this happens for me too, people don't believe we have past.
Oh, man.
They like, look at these two highfalutin.
And my dad was an entrepreneur. My biological dad was an entrepreneur. He had many businesses, but he was not there for us. From my brother and I.
So you grew up in Washington Park
sisters.
Homes.
Absolutely. But my mom did some things. Let me give you a simple example.
Okay. Right.
This is what she did. You know, she made sure that, first of all, the environment will swallow you up.
Yeah.
But you know what she did? She gave us a haven at home. So she would do things like, for your birthday, many days we did not eat. No, literally did not eat. But on your birthday, one way or the other, you're getting a cake.
Okay.
For Christmas, you didn't have much coming. You know what she would do? She would send a Christmas card to you in the mail. She would go to the mailbox, make it special. So she gave us foundational love, right? And said, at home, you have a haven. That's number one.
Okay.
Number two, you talked about this last week, about finding a trusted source, a trusted male, right? And once that happens, it takes a lot of it. Today, I have no idea. It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy because you don't interact as much as we used to.
Right.
But finding a trusted male, your boys need a male role model.
So did you have a male role model?
I eventually did. I remember searching, literally almost just availing myself to any guy who would, which is dangerous.
That's what happens.
Yeah, you seek it out. Yeah,
you seek it out.
It's dangerous because I could have aligned with, anyone who was into anything.
Right.
Right. But my mom at home told us to stay out of trouble. So if I saw trouble, I didn't do it.
Okay.
Unusual, whatever it is, that's what happened. And then, so my family in general, we didn't go for all of the, the gang and all that stuff. We had a haven. But eventually, God provided a mentor here, a mentor there. I didn't have a steady mentor, but a mentor, and I was able to find
male mentors.
Yep.
Okay.
And you take what you get from each one, and you tell a story. And then, lastly, right before I became a dad, it was simple. The instructions in my spirit were, do opposite of what happened to you, and your children will be okay.
Got it. And I mean, your children are amazing. I mean, you and Tanya have done a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
Yeah. And now you're grandparents.
Yes.
Yeah. So how about that?
Yeah.
Lisa, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I just wanted to say excellent topic. Thank you so much for this topic. You hit on a subject that I'm glad to know that nothing's wrong with either one of my sons because they appear to be in the population of which you spoke. I have a 37-year-old who did exactly what you said most men are doing now in the dating pool. Instead of dating, they get off work, they go home, they buy food, they go sit down, and they shut down.
Yeah.
And that's what my 37-year-old does. He no longer stays in my basement. He does live with his younger brother, who's 27, and that's the other son that I was concerned about. He had serious bouts of depression, suicidal thoughts because of this depression.
Yep.
So you hit on two major topics that span 10 years between my two sons, and I'm just glad to know that they're not alone in this. There's other guys. I'm thinking something was wrong with him. He didn't want to date. The 37-year-old, he had two bad relationships, and it shut him down. It's made him untrusting, and he just doesn't want to get hurt. So he's put a wall up around him. So he doesn't even date anymore.
Wow.
The younger 27-year-old, he's still trying to find his way. He knows that dating is expensive, so he doesn't date because he's trying to find his way with getting enough money to be able to date with. So that wasn't what was making him depressed. He had other things making him depressed, money issues, the right kind of job, the stuff 20-year-olds go through. But they have each other. They live in an apartment together.
That's good.
And but I'm just glad to know they're not alone in this. That it's a population out here. They're not the only ones. So thank you so much for this topic. I'm a single mom. I pretty much raised them by myself. The younger son had his father in his life, the first 16 years, which was like the stepfather for my older son. Okay. But he was not the best example of a man. So it's like they learn. If they don't learn a positive example, they'll learn how to be the opposite of what they grew up with.
Sure.
So
may I ask you a question?
Yes.
A question to you would be, since they moved in together, has that been helpful? Has that been a more healthy situation for them?
As a matter of fact, it has. That because they've been living together now for the past 2 years, but the older son is learning a little bit more from the younger one because the younger one, he does go out on dates occasionally. The older son, he's like shut down. The 37-year-old, he's like shut down, doesn't want to date. The younger one tells him how to go about dating, how to approach females. What do you say? Because they both are good looking. They don't have any children.
Wow.
Has nothing to do with it.
Good looking, single.
I know.
Children.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with it. And but they're young black men with no children and no criminal record, which is kind of where we live. So they're like, there people are surprised at that. They never been in jail. They never been arrested. Oh my goodness, how you do that? But
and obviously working. Both of them are working and making money as well.
Yeah, they are. They work and they both work hard and they both know how to take care of a woman, and that's why opposites attract. So the older one, he got the wrong type of woman that didn't appreciate all the stuff that he was doing, which kind of happened.
Yeah, that does happen.
And the younger one, he had trust issues also. Because by him being the 27-year-old, he's got the social media. He doesn't trust females because he thinks everybody's going to cheat. Because look at their freaking role models now. They got like Sexy Red and all these, tough stuff like that.
Man,
so it's like he doesn't trust these females.
Ice Spice.
They're going to cheat.
Like this is
yes.
And that's a whole nother conversation. But Lisa, thanks for the phone call.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
thank you.
so much for the phone call.
Taking it, and I continue to listen. Have a great day.
Absolutely. What a great example.
Wow.
I mean, exactly what we've been talking about here.
They could use direct coaching.
Yeah, they could.
Yeah,
they really could.
That's needed there because, obviously, and it's usually the case. They're good guys. They have something to offer. Mm-hmm. But finding that worth and who to share that value that you have with safely.
Yeah, safely, without being taken advantage of.
That's right.
And it's tough because the culture. When I say the culture, like the culture today, even in the music, is use them and abuse them.
Yep.
It's okay. Like squeeze them for what you got and move on.
See.
And it's I can see how. Young men who are kind of watching what's happening, listening to the music, and thinking like, "Hey, I'm good. I really don't want to, get involved in that." And it's tough, man.
So here's a young lady who has a degree, is working, and I don't know what these young men do.
Right.
But obviously, just based on Lisa's comments, they're hardworking, nice-looking guys, no criminal records, all of this stuff. Can I look beyond the degree? Am I willing to look beyond the degree that I have and look at a young man for his content, and say, hey, end of the day, I want somebody who will love me, who's willing to go to bat for me. This man will get up and go to work. I don't have to tell him. He'll, we can build a partnership. Not based on degree, but on our character.
I think so. I think this is where we've kind of gotten off pace.
Yeah.
Because when you go back to the 50s, 60s, 70s, you didn't have television shows and social media that displayed these lifestyles that now most people, by the way, women in particular, really want to live.
Yeah.
You really want to live that lifestyle.
Yep.
And so if I couple up with you, I'll never have that lifestyle. Well, guess what? You probably, most of us won't have that lifestyle, period. If you stay single, you're not going to have that lifestyle. I was sharing with my wife, and she always is like, here you go. But I was sharing, there's a probability calculator, a male probability calculator.
Okay.
And somebody sent it to me, and so I was running my numbers. So my age, my height, my weight, I'm not overweight, my income.
Right.
And what it said is that if a woman was waiting on someone like me, she would end up in her home with cats alone.
Wow.
Because the probability that a woman would meet someone like me is 0.0008.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but what happens is, though, like, let's say, you know, there's a listener say, you know, I don't want Linal, but I want someone like him.
Right.
If she's out there and that's what she set as her model for marriage, then it's very likely she'll be single and pass, like Lisa has these great sons, and pass up young men like that who with partnership would be so much better.
Man.
And I believe that's part of the solution is us actually being realistic about who we partner with.
When I first started dating my wife, I tell you what, I was just out of the projects. Okay, I was finished with school and fresh out of the projects, right? And you look trajectory wise.
Yeah, who would want that?
Yeah, it's like
it's
what? Like, huh?
Yeah.
You know, and so
yeah.
she married this project guy.
Fresh out the projects.
And with her being a great partner, I was able to didn't have to worry about things. Moved up in my
give
career.
Us 2 minutes, like the 2-minute story.
Yeah.
I mean, so you graduate, you grew up in the projects, you graduate college, you meet your wife.
Yep.
She knows your backstory.
Yep.
She still dates and marries.
Visited us in the project.
Before,
because we knew each other before. No, she's not. No, she is not.
Okay.
Before we even dated.
This was
we first met in the late 80s.
In the late 80s, okay.
Right.
So this is late 80s, and then what happens next?
And then, you know, so eventually we started, you know, liking each other. We dated, and I think she's a good calculator of future stuff or something she's good at, right?
Okay, she's like, this man got potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I coach young people, my question is, I don't look at what you have now because I can't compare you to me, right? What I compare you to is there are other standards. So, for example, is a person a willing partner? Do you have to wake this guy?
Can I ask you one quick question?
Yes, please.
Were you wearing shoes like you got on today?
No, sir. No, sir.
Y'all got to see Arnold's shoes. Boy, he slipped.
Cut it out.
It's some nice shoes.
No, sir.
Yeah.
No, and he's saying that, and I'm super. I promise you, I'm not real materialistic.
I know. But you look great, man.
Well,
and, women look at shoes.
You. Yeah. So there you go. But no, we didn't have.
You weren't wearing those kind of shoes.
No, we didn't. We didn't have a whole lot, man.
Yeah.
And by being at home, you know what guys also look for? Respect. They look for respect.
You want a woman that's going to respect.
There's respect. So I had all of that. I'm a super blessed guy. I had all of that, which gave me freedom to put energy into my career and just the guidance of God all the way through my career. I moved up and we did okay. And
she supported you as you went back to school.
Total support.
Like that.
Yep. Went back for grad and all of this stuff and all along the way. And then I turned around and supported her. She has her master's. She has her MBA. So as I said, when she was in grad school, we were in grad school.
Right.
That's it. Partnership.
And I think if there's a young woman listening or a single woman listening, if you find a man that's established, you're going to have to do some bending.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and the likelihood that there's as much room for you is, so I think sometimes we want things, but then like, do you really want that?
Yeah.
Or do you want true partnership?
Do you want partnership?
Yeah.
Which could get you even beyond your dreams.
There you go.
If you
are living that lifestyle.
Oh my goodness!
Because I mean, I was looking at pictures. You all just, Alaskan cruise.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you guys weren't in the bottom state house on the cruise.
Right.
Living it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's what you all been able to build.
Yep.
What solutions would you provide a young man right now who's like, I relate to Lisa's boys?
Yeah, you have to get with somebody who's going to be in there with you. So what I mean is there's no switch, there's no light switch, right? So you get in there, and you need a true role model who can help you. That'll stick with you, won't be down on you, who will help uplift you and show you all. You know what good coaches do? There's this guy, I'm a Baltimore Orioles guy, and there was this one coach, his name was Buck Showalter. You know what he was really good at?
What was that?
He would maximize your abilities. The Orioles, back when he was the coach, had no business being in the playoffs. he had them all playing at the top of whatever they had.
Top of their games, yeah.
And as a whole, they overachieved. That's what a good coach, and that's what these young men need. And then you know what it builds? That confidence in you to go, no, I do have worth. I do have some. Yeah. And then when you get back out there on the dating scene, you go, it's your loss.
Yeah. If you don't,
I'm going to move on. So I'm not going to disappear. I don't need to disappear. I have something. I have somewhat to offer.
And you know what? If they're listening too, there's two things I want to say. One is don't internalize rejection.
That's right.
We all get rejected.
Yep.
And I was telling you a story yesterday about how I was working on one of my buildings.
Yep.
I walked across the street, and I was covered in drywall and stuff like this. And this is years ago when I was single. I was covered in drywall, dusty and all those things. I washed my hands and my face, basically.
Right.
And I walked across the street to grab myself something to eat. And so I placed my order. I see a young lady pull up.
But first of all, I think it went by you. You were working on what now?
One of my buildings.
One of your buildings.
Yeah, one of my pieces of property.
There you go.
Right. So I was building something, and I was working to build. So while I didn't have a woman, I was working to build something. And so I go in, I order the food, and I see her pull up. She's in a nice, sharp luxury vehicle. She pulls up, gets out. She's fly, brother. I mean, she's fly.
Yeah.
So I run to open the door for her.
Yeah.
Okay. Open the door for her. She kind of looks at me, walks in, and she orders her. I wait for her to order her food, and then I struck up a conversation. How you doing today? You look nice. She's like, hey, look. She just stopped me. Hey, look, I don't do that. I'm not doing this with you.
Wow.
What do you mean with me?
Wow.
And she was like, I don't date guys that do your kind of work. She didn't know.
Had no idea
that I had a job making over six figures. She didn't know that I was doing construction in one of my pieces
your
of
property.
But it was that rejection was a gift. I didn't take it personal.
Yep.
You're not the kind of woman I'm looking for.
That's it. I
don't want a woman like that.
Yep.
And I think for many men, like as you assert yourself, like respectfully with women, if you get rejected harshly, thank God. She showed her character quick.
I don't have to spend a lot of energy here.
Yeah, you know what? Thank you. You're beautiful on the outside, but not the inside. Thank you for showing me that right away. And don't make it about you. That's the first piece. The second piece goes to what you were saying. In terms of young men should find someone wise, an older man who they can provide value for. Now, a lot of times I think we think mentorship.
Right.
I need a mentor.
Right.
You're retired. You're still busy.
Oh.
You might have more time for mentorship. I don't.
Yes.
I
That's
don't.
Right. That's right.
So how does a young man get close to me? The young men who are close to me, they're providing me value in some capacity. I have a young guy. He's 20 years old. He comes over and helps me in the yard. And while he's helping me in the yard, he's asking me question after question.
Sure.
He's getting everything he wants in terms of, he's never asked me to mentor him.
Yes.
You know what he said? Hey, man, you got something I can do?
100%. Right away.
100% I got something you can do.
Yep.
You mind helping me with these weeds on the weekend?
That's
I don't want to pull weeds.
That's right.
So I'm coming in and out the house, but I'll come out, check on him, and he'll say, I got a question.
That's it.
What's the question?
Yeah.
And I'll listen to his question. I'll give him an answer.
But those are the ingredients that I say, do they have, not do you have $1 million, do you have the ingredients to be a good man? And that's what I'm talking about.
Yes, yes. And so thanks for providing that solution. I want to provide that. Hey, Henry, can we address that one real quick before you go to the next one?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so did you catch that? So what he was, saying is that, often you have women who, they got the lunch guy.
Yeah.
And so he takes her to lunch, buys her lunch, and that's the only role he'll ever get.
Yeah.
Is the lunch guy. And then there's the sex guy. And, that's, you don't see the friends or anything, but you come over and Henry, I'm guessing you're like, so, sometimes as men, we get stuck in these roles.
Yeah.
And then we have a affection for a woman who, really that affection is not going to take us any further.
You want more.
Now, how would you support a man who might be in one of those positions?
Yeah. I mean, you gotta, something you said earlier, how you were able to evaluate, and sometimes it's not fast. You spend some time, but if we talked about this. We didn't get into it on the radio, but you and I talked about this whole idea behind like casual sex and things like that.
Yeah.
There are dangers with that, because you can go in and then you're blinded by the physicality. And then if you actually start liking this person, they'll say things right up front. No, I don't want to go any further. It's just this.
Right.
They say if a person shows you who they are, what? Believe them.
Believe them. Believe them.
So you got to take those key indicators, knowing going in, and go, and don't. I mean, look, I will tell you, you got to ask yourself the question, do I get involved even though it's just physical? Yeah, you'll get the benefit of a season here, but if you want more, do you get involved or not? And then if you are looking for that wife or that next thing, are you willing to walk away even though?
Yeah. To that point, and Henry, I know you have more to say, but I really want to hit this piece. If you're the lunch guy and you get stuck being a lunch guy, it's because you don't have a goal.
Yeah. Good.
Like this is why goal setting and being purposeful as men is so important.
Yep.
Because if I have a goal for a relationship and after 6 months of lunches, that's not happening. And by the way, that's too long.
Well, I was going to say one part of a goal, it has to be time bound.
It has to be time bound.
Yeah.
If I can't, if you're not willing to be with me after 90 days of lunches, then I need to start having lunch alone again.
That's it.
Yeah. It's like, you know what? It's been fun. And this is where, for men, we don't have that biological clock that creates an urgency sometimes in men. Yeah. So we'll go longer. And I know some women are thinking like, this happens to men too. 100% it happens to men.
Yeah.
And so men get used the same way women get used.
Yes.
And the problem is you have a real good man that got used that meets a real good woman that got used, and then they bring that trauma to each other, and it don't work out because both are wounded.
Both are wounded.
And that's another reason for healing.
Yeah.
But to that point, this is why we have to set goals as men. Like, I want to be in a loving relationship. There's nothing soft about saying, I want to be in a loving relationship by the end of the year.
Yep.
That's what I want.
And then you work with some, if you don't know it, work with somebody. What are the key steps?
There you go. Then find that wiser, older man and say, hey, man, I've been taking her to lunch, but ain't nothing really going. Because I'm going to push you and say, well, ask for dinner.
That's it. That's right.
ask for dinner.
That's it.
Like, can I take you out for dinner now?
Yep.
Like, when do we go,
Can we just go out?
Eventually, I'd like to be waking up having breakfast. You can't say that, but I will. But, like, let's move this along, right? The second piece is, okay, so now I'm caught in a sexual relationship, which can happen to a man, too.
Yes, absolutely.
Which can happen to a man, too.
And he'll say, is this all I'm worth?
This is all I'm good for?
Right.
And men, the trouble with getting caught in a physical relationship like that is that it can go for years.
Yep.
And you can give a woman your best years. The same way a woman can give a man, you can give a woman your best years.
Because you're not procreating, are you?
No, you're not.
Your genes are not moving on.
Yeah. She's not having your babies. And what you don't realize, more importantly, is that you're giving away your spiritual power with every ejaculation.
Please say it again. Please say it.
Not giving it back.
It's more than just physical.
It's not just physical. You're giving up your chi.
Yep. This is why young men get in trouble when they have experiences. They're not mature. Now they're chasing. Then their grades go down. And it's leading to, oh boy.
And by the way, that casual sex relationship that she has you tethered to could also take away your willingness to go out and create more.
Yes.
Like, I need a property. I need this. I want that.
Yep.
It's like because you're being pacified.
Yep.
And so that can be incredibly dangerous.
Marriage and divorce laws, we have like no fault divorce these days, where women can say, hey, look, he didn't communicate well, or we have irreconcilable differences, whatever that means, or I just not feeling it.
Yeah.
And then and they can go to places, they can go to different states and go file those divorce papers on that front, on top of that.
Yep.
And then they will be granted a divorce if the guy signs it.
Yeah.
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 That's another thing that's happening while my marriage is breaking down, because it's like, you're like, well, why am I going to do that when she just walk out on me one day and just say, hey, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You do hear men in that predicament.
Well, a lot more men. Henry, thanks for the phone call, by the way. We'll talk about that one too. But a lot more men.
Yeah.
A lot more men. As a matter of fact, I believe the number, don't quote, you guys know I always say, don't believe everything I say, go check. But I believe the number is 70 to 80% of divorces are filed by women.
Yeah.
Now.
Yep.
Hasn't always been that way.
They are.
Now,
it's majority. Absolutely.
The majority of divorces are filed by women now.
Yep.
And let me say this, at least in my circle, the women who have filed for divorce had an idea of what life would be like post-divorce that has yet decades later to materialize.
Wow.
So it ain't.
What do you mean? What do you?
Like it's oh, he's holding me back. He won't let me be great. Whatever it might be. The other is I can do better. And more often than not, ladies who are listening, someone's disenfranchised in their marriage right now. Every last one of the women I'm thinking of who left their husbands are still single. And guess what with the husbands? The majority of them, not all of them, are either engaged or remarried.
Wow. So, do you find it? I'm going to interview the interviewer. Harder? Are people as willing to work as hard to stay together as it used to be? I know that because one thing is that women now are more financially independent, which is a great thing.
Economic independence has made it where I can, I'm more. I think that's one of the reasons women are filing more divorces is because I can walk away.
Yeah.
And I can still be economically viable and dependent. Whereas before, I can't leave this guy. We got to figure it out.
And I'm glad that women are elevated. I really am. I foster it. I coach. I do the whole thing.
It means that our wives they choose to be with us.
That's right.
Not forced to be with us.
That's right. They're not forced to be with us.
They choose to be with us.
That's right. That's right. And but there's still the power of it is having all of that and still appreciating.
Yeah.
Working for now, I'm not talking about abuse. Please understand if there's abuse and things like that. We're not talking about real life divorce reasons to divorce and all of that. And if somebody's abusing you, please 911.
You should.
So
get out, get away.
But just hardship. Differences and things that we can get into, which is not the scope of this. But willing to work hard. Having that respect for each other and fighting through some things to keep a partnership,
I think, and I want to spend the last 15 minutes really into solutions, but marriage to me is so important.
Yeah.
And I think now what's happened is we don't have the same grit that we used to have. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is like undying commitment.
Yeah.
Like, I am in this. Let's be clear. My wife and I, we've been married 9 years. We've been together almost 12. And the first 2 years of marriage, brother, were tough for us because we had to learn one another. And if there was no commitment, we wouldn't have experienced what it's like to be married now.
Yes, sir.
Which has been beautiful. Talk about like a flower that bloomed and has blossomed. The beginning is that little tight bud. You don't know what's possible.
That's right.
And we didn't know what was possible, but we stuck it out.
Yep.
And here we are now, 2 children, just beautiful family, home, life. I think we both are like, man, I love my wife. She loved, we are happy to be together.
That's right.
And I think sometimes we go through those tough times and we don't realize that, every tunnel has an end. If you're willing to push through it, every tunnel has an end. And so anyone listening who like you're on the crest, like just keep pushing, stay committed, and keep pushing. As long as there's love in that marriage, then there's possibility, and I really believe that.
I mean, you said something that triggered me. It's what helped me. You know, God put two things in me that I didn't know were there until pressure was applied.
Yeah.
Someone said, "Okay, do you know who you are?" You know, well, I had to figure out. There's two things about me.
Yeah.
I have grit, and I'm extremely coachable. So what do I mean?
Yeah.
I will not give up. If it's something that my wife needs or my children or going to bat for somebody, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm not giving up.
Keep going. Yeah.
Number two, I know in many cases I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I've learned this.
You are pretty sharp, brother.
Man, I have listened. You got to have some humility, and then somebody who knows something more than you do, be willing to say, "I don't know that.
Yeah,
help me get this." Yeah. So the coachability, and then when you bring those things to the table, man, you will get through those hard times. It's worth it.
Yep.
You know.
So are there any other solutions that you would provide for boys or, young men that are listening?
One big, gigantic one, of course, we can't boil the ocean. I want to say that. Right. So, you can take a pot of water and boil that, but you can't boil the ocean, right? But the solution I'm going to say here is it's almost like boiling a lake. Okay. So our boys, in the current education system set up the way it is, there needs to be an understanding, coming to a realization that it has to change, right?
It's got to change. Yeah.
Now, if that means that we need more schools that focus on boys, something like that needs to happen, because the current environment and you're trying to say about gender roles, you're trying to change and all of this, it's translating into 7 to 9 million men disappearing. Yeah. That's what's happening. Yeah. And it's not race-based. It's men.
It's men, period. Yeah.
Right.
White, black.
And it's not just the U.S.
Asian, you name it.
It's the developed countries across the world that all of this is happening in. So something needs to happen baseline, grassroots, for understanding. So that's the big one, right?
Yep.
At home, for us, we need to understand that our boys are different. We have got to get positive male roles. Dads, I'm sorry, sometimes
outside of ourselves.
But you as yourself, sometimes you got to say, I can't go to that basketball game. Why? I absolutely feel impressed. I've been gone too much. I got to spend time with my boy and girl.
Yep.
She's got to see it too.
She needs some love too. Yeah. Yep.
And see how that male is. Yeah. But the crisis is with men. They have got to. Our boys have got to see. It's imperative in the house and outside the house, that positivity.
Yeah. I think that's one of the ways for single mothers to get those boys support with men is get them into sports programs.
They got to get them into sports programs.
And here's the other thing that I believe sports does. Sports teaches you how to be assertive in a measured way.
Yep.
And one of the things I see that's lacking in men is assertion. I'll give you an example. Some time ago, I think it was like 2 Thanksgivings ago, I was out with family. And we were all out at a little club, and one of my family members, single, he was looking at a young lady from across the club. And I might have told him, go up to her.
Yeah.
Like 5 times.
Okay.
Right. And finally, I was like, look, man, you're going to regret this.
Yep.
She looking over here. Y'all been, eye dancing all night. Like, you have got... whatever stories you're telling us, you got to get past that.
Yep.
And go. And finally, he went, he got the number. You should have saw the smile on his face.
Yeah.
But that respectful assertion is missing. And I would tell any young man listening right now, like, there is nothing that will form you and mold you like rejection.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with Sarah the other day, right? Sarah works for me. She's filling in for our day today. around sales. Like when you realize, like, if I can be rejected by a woman, I can be rejected by a CEO.
Absolutely.
You get where I'm going?
Absolutely.
And so now, even as an entrepreneur, it was part of the assertion and my ability to go through rejection that has made me into the salesman that I am.
There you are.
And so that's part of, like, I get way more no's than I get yeses.
Yes.
And so will any man who's looking to go out with a woman.
Yep.
You're going to get more no's no matter what you look like than yeses. That's how it goes.
Yep.
And so I would say, young men, develop your respectful assertion.
I love it.
Yes.
That's a great. And one more real fast to the moms, single, married, or whatever. Even if the husband is at home, you need multiple sources. One that I really ascribe to is this: martial arts.
Man, I love that.
Right? For boys.
I love
now,
that.
everybody can afford it, but sometimes the park districts have these.
Wrestling,
any of those martial arts, any of them, right? So, and this is what I mean. Not just the art itself. Interview the teacher. If they are the type, this is the one you want to look for, who will ask that young man, what will your mom say about you today? How is your behavior? What are your grades like?
Yeah.
Why didn't you turn the homework in?
Yeah.
What you want to coach like that in martial arts, because the martial arts is teaching them not how to fight, but discipline. A good teacher will teach them discipline.
And that's, again, that disciplined assertion.
That's a disciplined assertion. That's right.
Yeah.
And you want to, because they are a figure that's respected, and that young man, I've seen it work so many times, they snap to it.
Yeah.
So just an example.
Yeah, I love that. Mm-hmm. The other thing I would say to our more mature men, one of the things that I believe curves that assertion in life to build is alcohol, drugs, and sex.
Yeah.
And when I say sex, I'm also throwing pornography in there.
Yep.
Whether it's sex with yourself or sex with someone else, right? All of it. It curves your, like, that oomph to go get something.
That's right.
And I would say, just, man, write this down, put it on your wall, write it in your phone. Alcohol, drugs, and sex are a bad bet.
That's it.
Like, it's just you're not going to win that bet.
Love yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Love yourself, hold yourself to a higher standard, and know that those things are drowning out what you need to deal with.
That's it.
And so, at some point, if you don't deal with it, it will bury you. Are you going to deal with it so you can create what you intend to create, or allow it to continue to just bubble beneath the surface?
And men who have something to offer, reach back. And help the young men and make sure they don't get exposed to those things. Or if they do, have a conversation just like this that shows them the effect, the long-term effects, what it's going to do to you, just as you're saying. But those who've been there, reach back.
I have a question. Now I'm thinking about the more mature men who might be, like maybe even Henry, who I believe has gone through a divorce and, a bit disenfranchised with women. Also, Lisa's 37-year-old son, who 2 failed relationships, and it's kind of like, I'm good.
What about that? 37 years old.
Yeah, 37 years old. And still a lot of life in front of them. A lot of life in front of them. And
that's being threatened by the myriad of things that we've talked about.
Exactly. What solutions or advice would you give men in that area? Like that kind of middle age, 36 through 46, maybe even 50, right? Where it's kind of like, I don't know. I got some habits too, likely. Like, what solutions or advice would you pass to men like that?
Couple things. Understand that, I've been dealt a pretty tough blow. Yes, you have. Yes. But the way you go about your day, somebody will say, oh, here's the pie in the sky thing. But your positive attitude will take you a long way. Understand this. I have got to fight negativity. I've got to do it. I got to get, because it's on the only person that's keeping back is me. That's number one, and there's a lot to that. I know I'm saying something quickly here without But these are things that we would deal with. And I do this with people. Number 2 is I must fight isolationism. I have got to get outside. So here I am, a mature man. I have to. So you have electronic tools all over the place. There's social things all over the place.
It's so easy to get plugged into the
I need to go. Even if I have a friend who's a female, they are excellent at socializing. Mm-hmm. Hey, can I go with you? Or can you help me get out there?
Right.
Get out.
Yeah, I love that idea.
Oh,
and
my goodness.
Sometimes a good female friend can help you with your assertion. Get
Absolutely.
up and go talk to her. I love that as an idea.
Yeah.
That's really good. I want to share this about the digital realm.
Yeah.
And I said this last week. But before the digital realm, there were 4 realms.
Yeah.
And we dealt in those 4 realms. The spiritual realm, which is incredibly important. I think the ultimate solution, I want to give you a little time to talk about before we end. The physical realm, this physical body, what we experience in the physical body.
Yep.
The mental realm,
Please.
Our mental consciousness,
Absolutely.
Our psychological health and all of that. That's another realm. And then you have the astral realm that I think a lot of us don't even think about. But that's, you talk about sex and why it can have such a cost. Is because now I have an astral link to somebody that's impacting how I perform in all these other realms.
Yep.
Right? Then man went in and created the internet and created a digital realm. And I believe one of the reasons men are struggling is because no one's teaching us how to navigate these realms.
Yeah.
In particular, how to unplug from the digital realm.
Yeah.
And the advice and the solution I would provide for men who are listening to this is you must unplug from the digital realm.
Yep.
And here are the things that you do when you unplug. You go work out. Work your physical body.
If it were appropriate, I would applause.
Yeah.
I'll give you an applause right here.
Like go work out. Feel the muscles in your body. If you don't have any,
not even working hard. Even if it's a walk.
Even if it's a walk, but do something physical. Get into your body as a man. That's number 1. Number 2, tap into the spiritual realm in the ways that you know how. Meditate. If you don't know how to meditate. You have to meditate. Yeah, if you don't know how to meditate, go
learn.
to YouTube.
Can we spend some time learning about ourselves?
That's number 3.
We have to
you got to learn and read books.
I don't know how to meditate. Yeah. Go learn.
Physical books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's digital. You can go look on the internet. Best ways to meditate.
I don't want to do anything digital, man.
Thank you.
I think because it's
nowadays. I actually agree, but
get a physical book. Get a physical book about something you want to learn.
Meditate.
Yes. But learn how to meditate. Even if you don't know how to pray to that higher power that you know exists. The
American Medical Association has shown people who pray do better physically after, surgery or whatever else you're going through. They finally admit it.
There's science behind it.
There's science
behind prayer. And then the 4th thing is get therapy if you're wounded.
Yes.
And you talked about loving yourself, but I believe that, instead of taking that young lady to lunch, put that money into
take you to
therapy.
lunch.
Yes.
And go get the help.
Man, get the help that you need.
Yes.
Young men.
Don't disappear. Don't disappear. Guys.
Don't disappear.
Please. Disappear. I know it's easy to disconnect and say forget it, but please, we're inviting you back out.
Yeah.
Please come back.
It's summertime.
Yeah. Go get the help you need. Go get that book you need. Walk to the library. Get that book. Somebody will say, well, show me what meditate. I don't want to have to show you everything because I don't know it all.
Go learn it.
Go learn it. Go do it.
Thank you for watching Inspirational Perspective. If you love this show and you want to see more content like this, you can go right here. And if you like this subject and you want to see much more content that we have available for you, just click the button here. As always, thanks for watching. Be sure to watch the show live, 7 a.m. every Sunday morning on WVON Radio, or you can catch it right here on YouTube or Facebook.com/Coach Linal Harris. Be sure to hit that like button. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe so we can get more content just like this to you.